But anyway, Heraclitus, born in Ephesus, once again, the Greek world. All right, he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Not something that we necessarily know about his, but although we probably can presume a little bit, being that they were educated, that they were known well enough to appreciate their writings, that they probably at least acquired some influence probably at some point in time, if they weren't born into it. He shunned his duties, preferring the study of everything from philosophy to politics. So he was a professional student. That's not why I'm saying I like the guy, but he's just an interesting guy. He argues that the universe is ruled by order, or his term is logos. Okay, Greek word, logos. And it's a very loosely translated word in different times. Kind of like our word. And that's really how it translates often. Logos is translated as word. It can also, it has a much broader, just like we say, what's the word today? What's the word? What's going on? What's happening? Right? We use that word in a slang manner. And that word historically has been used in some different ways. It can also mean like the explanation of something. Logos can mean. Okay, so I'm not sure if there's an intentional ambiguity here, but it seems that could be a possibility, and I think it's a likely probability that he's using the term logos because it is something that it's because it is a question mark. It's something that he doesn't fully understand, and he acknowledges that, and yet he realizes that whatever that thing that he doesn't fully understand is what's running the show. Okay, and that order that's going on, there's something. In other words, it's almost like what we might call a rational order to the universe. I think it seems to be, and this is interpretive, okay, but it seems to be along the lines of what Heraclitus is getting at. He sees, after all, you look around at the universe, and in spite of all the chaos and tragedies and the horrible event we had over recently, Caddo Gap, things happen and things get chaotic, but yet things restabilize. There is this order that we see in the universe. There is a stability. There is this kind of order. So he acknowledges that, and he says, a famous quote of his is, "One cannot step in the same river twice." Now, is that true? Is that true? Can you step into the same river twice? I've got one no. Two no's. Because it flows. Because it changes. The water is never the same, although we don't really know. It might evaporate and come back. Right? Okay, it might be the same water at some point in time, but it's going to be a different configuration no matter what. And erosion happens, right? That silt and all that stuff gets washed up, and rocks even get eroded. So there's a constant. Now, he didn't understand molecules. He didn't understand atoms. He didn't understand all these wonderful things that we have the privilege of knowing about. But he's got hold of something, doesn't he? He's got hold of something. And that something is that there is always a state of flux going on. There's a state of change. For example, physically, are you really the same person that you were 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Your body has slept those. Most of what we see, I understand, and I'm not your biology teacher, but I understand most of what you see on someone is actually dead skin that hasn't, slept off. So when you're looking at somebody, people who get facial peels or whatever, right, and take the dead stuff off, yeah. So, we are in a constant state of change. Our cells are constantly changing. Your bones grow and they change, and so on and so forth. Okay, so he's got this concept of stuff's always changing. The only thing that remains the same is that things change. All right? Change is the one thing that stays the same. That's really what he picks up on. Like the philosophers before him, he did believe in the all that led to one thing. And that thing was change or flux. For him, that's the one. That's the one thing. Everybody's looking for that one thing. All right? And he is saying, well, the one thing that does remain is that there's change. So there's this rational order. There's this something that he calls logos, word. How do you want to, explanation. This question mark thing out there in the universe that is ordering all this. All right, that's the one thing that's to be counted on. Okay, Parmenides. As we mentioned, we talked about Xenophanes a little bit ago. He's likely a student of Xenophanes. Parmenides, once again, Italian area. Okay. He also wants to find the one basic principle, so he doesn't deviate from that. He's considered to be the first rationalist. We've already talked about rationalism, so we're not going to get hammered that. You've already been tested. That's behind you now. All right. What is, what is not, is not. Huh? What is, what is not, is not. How is that? It's kind of confusing. Okay. If we say nothing exists, we are in fact acknowledging something, because nothing is in fact something. If you talk about nothingness, then he's putting a substance to that. Then that is something. You can't say that nothing exists. That black hole of whatever is a something. Even if you call it a nothing, that's still something. It's kind of confusing. I'm not saying that that's real brilliant. Okay, I'm not saying that he had some real deep, brilliant thoughts here.
Is he kind of saying like the gap that is ignorance, that there is something to be filled there?
Well, yeah, maybe that's a good way of putting it. Like the gap, the ignorance. Okay, that is something. You're ignorant. That's a lack of knowledge. Oh, but that is something. That's a good way to maybe look at that. That's not bad. Yeah. Okay, the one for him is this mysterious X factor of being. Okay, it neither comes into being nor passes away, and it is unchangeable. So, what is. Okay, what is, and that's where that phrase, what is. Okay, it exists. And nothingness exists as nothing, though. So, yeah, like that void. Okay. Yes, you got a question?
No, I just was confusing it still. So you did.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'll hold on to it. So for him, he's really into that idea of, well, being. We'll just leave it at that, everything that exists. So what kind of thinking might that be? What kind of worldview would that probably fit into? Everything just is. It wasn't created.
It's tangible, it's here.
If it doesn't come into existence, everything just always existed. Everything that it is always has been. What was Hegel? I'm trying to help you out. Hegel.
Yeah.
Talked about Hegel. What was his worldview?
Collective human spirit.
Yeah, what's his worldview though? Bigger than that. That religious kind of world aspect of it. Pantheism.
Collective spirit.
Right.
This up on.
Pantheism. Pantheism, because everything is. Yeah, see, that kind of fits the pantheistic mindset. Everything is just all of material reality, whatever you want to call it. Everything it exists. It's always been here. It doesn't go out of being. It doesn't come into being. Whatever it is that which is, and that's why he says that what is. It's just what it exists has always existed and always will exist. Okay. All right. Zeno. Let's talk about Zeno. Zeno with a Z. Right? Don't confuse Zeno with Xenophanes. It starts with an X. Alright, Zeno of Elea. Okay. Student of Parmenides. He is famous for his paradox of the turtle and Achilles. I'm not going to give this one the dignity of much time because this is kind of silly. I don't mind saying so. Alright. I see what he's trying to do, but the way he went about it, okay, imagine Achilles and a turtle are in a race. The turtle gets a head start. For Achilles to catch up to the turtle, he must travel half the distance of his intended goal. Okay, but the turtle is still moving. So again, he must travel half that distance. Okay, as you can see, he will never catch the turtle. Therefore, motion is an illusion. He's trying to prove motion is not real, that it's only a perception that you have. It's not actually happening. That it's an illusion. All right. And so he's got some agendas here, but this is the way he's most famous for, and what he's going about, the way he's going about it.
It's like you stay still, but everything else moves, or are you the only one?
Well, it's just that you perceive it. It's it's an illusion. It's not really happening in the universe. It's just your perception of motion. There's not actually motion in the universe. That's what he's trying to convince people of. But yeah, so it is what it is. He's made it in the history of philosophy books, so we're going to talk about it, but we're not going to waste a whole lot of time on it. All right, he is probably the least favorite of all of them. All right, everybody got that? Okay, good. Let's go. Okay, Zeno, but mine. Okay.
He was using it to defend his teacher, who was who?
Parmenides. All right. Let's talk about Empedocles. Empedocles, he merged the ideas of Parmenides and Pythagoras. Okay, he asked what accounts for change and concluded that the four elements are the cause. Remember that we talked about that: wind, fire, water, air. Air, fire, water, earth. Okay. For change to occur, there must be forces to move the elements, though, and those forces are love and strife. Okay, Empedocles gives up. Now I want you to know this. He gives up the idea of the one. He's the first guy to really give up that concept of one thing. All right. So he sees that there's got to be something. You've got these four elements in the universe. He's not trying to distill it down to, okay, it's really all made out of air, and so there's, everything is a derivative of whatever particular substance. He gets away from that. He just says, we do know that there's for sure these four major ones. But he gives up the idea, and he focuses on what rearranges all these things. Because obviously, you have, beautiful flowers outside are made out of something. You've got to have something that's moving these different elements around. And he says that it's love and strife, love and hate kind of thing. Attraction, repelling. Well, now that might sound a little strange in the terms that he used, but let's think about it scientifically for just a second. What's the universe as we know it made out of? We already mentioned it back here. Okay, atoms. What do?
They attract and repel.
Yeah. Positive and negative stuff going on, right? So maybe he couldn't explain it articulately like we can, because we have the privilege of all that scientific knowledge now. But maybe he had a hold of something that, there's something that's putting together and taking apart of these elements. And so he names it a common term, love and strife. Positive, negative, maybe. All right, so some of these guys, again, this is the cavemen of philosophy, as I call them. They don't have access to a lot of the information that we now have. But their thinking for their time was oftentimes very ahead of its time. Very brilliant, very thought through and analytical. So maybe he's on to something there. He didn't know about that positive, negative molecule stuff going on that you learn in chemistry class, but he was on to something. Okay.